fact, we are very happy with the entire agreement that we have with OSSREA. As partners, we laid for OSSREA. The model, the triangulated model that we started with OSSREA, whether it's the trial husbandry project or project in conflict or whatever, we replicated it. We replicated it in Costa Rica, in Vietnam, in Indonesia, in China, and also in many other African countries. As I'm speaking today, when OSSREA started its PhD program, training and leveraging the training of PhD in our part of the continent, in Eastern and Southern Africa, we immediately joined OSSREA because we saw that there are also benefits that would accrue to us. Now we cooperate because we are reaping the benefit of OSSREA's cooperation with the University of Namibia, where we started the program for training 40 PhD students. We had the same with the Eastern African Legislative Assembly, which started a new center, that is the Center the Parliamentary Center for Legislative Studies. We immediately joined with OSSREA and we decided to give them 8 PhDs so that this new research center will have enough competent researchers who are able to study African parliaments, also to help develop the African continent in this regard. In fact, we benefited, as partners, we benefited probably more from OSSREA than OSSREA has benefited from us. We'd like to thank OSSREA, we'd like to wish OSSREA success in the future, and we assure OSSREA of our support, and we'll be very happy to work with you in the future. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Professor Edward Chirumira, the Nile-based research project WASO in Makerere University.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and I bring greetings from Makerere University. First of all, we want to register our appreciation for being invited to be part of this conference for the next 2 days. I'm happy that some of my members from Makerere University have come, and I would like to begin by introducing the freshly elected liaison officer for the Uganda chapter, Dr. Florence Asimwe, who is standing there. Dr. Florence Asimwe comes from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, and if you come to Makerere and ask for Florence at the main gate, they will take you directly to her. She's that well known, and we think that she's going to carry the work, the Uganda chapter of OSSREA, and OSSREA in general, to greater heights. Mr. President, the traditional universities, the main universities under the rubric or umbrella of OSSREA have experienced unprecedented support from donor agencies, and some of them listed here in the last 10 years in terms of training PhD students. And the condition has oftentimes been that these have to be members of these universities. So in the last 10 years, for example, Makerere University has trained 200 PhD members of staff. And this, so in a way, we are experiencing the birth of the new generation of African academics. The challenge, though, is that the current professoriate is on its way out. In the next 5 to 10 years, most of the professors in these universities will have retired. And some of them are on contracts. At the same time, we are receiving new academics. And there is therefore a challenge to mentor, to nurture, to expose this new generation of African academics. And we think that OSSREA is going to play making sure that these young people, young in quotes, young because they've just got their PhDs, and some of them also about to retire, that they take over and make sure that especially social sciences is vibrant in these traditional universities. But they also have a challenge of mentoring and nurturing young and upcoming universities. Coming here, I came from Juba University. I came yesterday from Juba University. And we're trying to see how Makerere University can work with the Center for Peace and Development Studies at Juba University so that we can contribute to this new country. And so there is also a challenge as far as OSSREA is concerned, not only to build and strengthen the capacity of the traditional universities, but also to grow the new universities. And we hope that this will be able to be done in partnership with the country chapters and also with our development partners. So mentorship is going to be a critical aspect in this, and therefore building of networks is going to be important. I'm glad that my special senior advisor did mention the place of our national governments. And I'm glad that he's here, and I hope that in the next 2 days I'll be able to engage him to make sure that we ask our national governments to invest, and I repeat, to invest in the growing of evidence base for policy making and these various aspects. I think national governments a lot of times have been absent in this equation. So I'm glad that my special advisor to the President is making this statement, and I'm definitely going to hold him to his words. So we're very happy that you invited us. We look forward to 2 days of good deliberations and 2 days of networking and 2 days of setting the stage for the African new generation of academics. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Dr. Mansour Assad, NORAID Project at University of Khartoum.
Director, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be here to make a few remarks. And I, of course, recognize how tough it is to be speaking of Messiah and Kingway. And I'll try. My first encounter with OSSREA was in 1995 when I came to this beautiful city as a newly recruited teaching assistant at the University of Khartoum, and a paper presented in a program that was run by OSSREA at the time, which was a private memory project. Since then, I continued as an active member of OSSREA, and between 2006 and 2010, I served as a liaison officer for the Sudan chapter, and in the process, I had the opportunity to work closely with the OSSREA's executive committee to revitalize OSSREA. In the process, we have seen the good, we have seen the bad, and actually we have seen the ugly. But now we are seeing the beautiful thing. For 2 reasons. The first reason is that OSSREA, over the past 3 years, has been doing a cutting-edge research on policy-related issues. And here I was taking you to the research directorate for the aggressive engagement and insistence on quality. And we are seeing the product of this in the books that the Minister has launched earlier. The second reason why we are also seeing the beautiful is the research process. And this is a significant program of building for PhD training, not only for students, but even for supervisors and mentors. And I'm honored this, as I am the research employee for the University of Khartoum. Over the past 3 years, as through the researcher, the university was a chance to train 9 PhD students from various Sudanese universities in advanced research scholarly training. And also, a number of supervisors have been given the chance to get into refresher training courses. This is no doubt a significant contribution that we should all be proud of. And as far as I know, the partners in this research are, I think, 10 or 12. And if you multiply that, you can easily see how significant this program is. Now, I am also here in my capacity as a coordinator of a newly funded capacity building program. It's called Borderland Dynamics. It's a partnership between the University of Khartoum, Makerere University, Addis Ababa University, OSSREA, Bergen University, and the Christian University Institute in Europe. This is a 5 years capacity building program that basically targets exploited partners with PhD scholarship, postdocs, MA scholarship, and a number of other capacity building activities that are policy relevant. OSSREA has played a very significant role in formulating the research project, and actually OSSREA hosted our meetings, direct exchanges of this work. And here I must recognize the efforts of Professor Pascal and Dr. Paulus, who were with us all the time in the meetings as we are finalizing the application. OSSREA's work will continue in the project. It's going to coordinate some of the important components of the project. As a member also of the University of Khartoum, I emphasize the commitment of the university in partnership with OSSREA, which is funded by the professorship predecessor, and the university already, through our team who is with you here today, committing itself to this program as a strategic capacity building program for the university. I thank you very much, and I wish you a successful conference. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now call upon Dr. Butera from the University of Peace.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Professor Tamu, President of OSSREA, Professor Miu, colleagues around the tables, my greetings. I'm Butera. I work for the University of Peace, and I'm based here in Addis Ababa. I'm the director of the Africa program. My headquarters are in Costa Rica, so quite far. And I would like to start by thanking OSSREA for giving me this opportunity to see this gathering, to see the work that we are doing. I know OSSREA for quite a number of years. When I was working at the National University of Rwanda in 1995-2005, I worked as the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. And I believe in 1998, that's when I came across OSSREA for the first time. And I worked with some of your previous leaders to establish the chapter in Rwanda. So my colleague, Professor Musahara, who is here now, can tell us more about that chapter later on. But also OSSREA, being in Addis Ababa and working in partnership with the same university, the Addis Ababa University, we have had opportunities to exchange ideas on undertakings that we carry. Our work focuses on peace and conflict studies. The University of Peace was established by the United Nations as a mandated university university to really work in graduate programs, mostly masters and some PhD also, to strengthen the capacity in peace and conflict studies. And when the program was established here in Africa in 2002, but we came here in 2005 in Addis Ababa, our focus has been on working with existing universities, not creating another campus. And we have worked with a number of universities, and we have focused on research methodologies, and we have also been working on PhD support programs. And really that's where we work with, I mean, we have areas where we are working with OSSREA. We have currently a program where we support 56 PhD students in about 28 universities in Africa, all around the areas of peace, conflict, governance, and security. And these are universities specifically in sub-Saharan Africa because we chose deliberately to build capacity on the continent. And this goes through training.
The next speaker would be Mrs. Hannah Sadiq, Life and Peace Institute.
Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, first off, I would like to thank Professor Naftamu for inviting me, and also Professor Pascal Vigneault, and afforded me this opportunity to address this distinguished crowd. I represent the Life and Peace Institute here in Addis Ababa. Life and Peace Institute is an international peace building and conflict transformation action research center. We work on supporting local conflict transformation action research in the Horn of Africa and in the Great Lakes. We have one publication called the Horn of Africa Bulletin, which I hope that some of you receive. If you don't, please contact me. I'll be very happy to get you a free subscription. Life and Peace Institute is one of the newer partners with OSSREA, and we're very pleased to be partnering with OSSREA. And we're very happy to be here with all of you in this very important conference. The conference topic, OSSREA's response to Africa's challenges of change, is very timely as we find ourselves in an era where both old and new challenges are intensifying, while also new opportunities to be seized and capitalized upon are constantly emerging. Solid research plays a critical role in providing evidence-based solutions and responses to these challenges, and can also have a foresight to flag in advance early on what opportunities are on the horizon. For this type of utilization-focused research, however, it is not enough to just have the research findings locked up in our universities or hidden away in our peer-reviewed journals, just like one of my preceding colleagues mentioned. But they have to find their way to decision-makers on the continent and ultimately contribute to positive change on the ground. And this is precisely why we need dialogue forums such as these, where academics, policymakers, and practitioners can meet and cross-fertilize ideas in order to jointly identify the most robust solutions to some of the biggest challenges of our time, and ultimately harness that thinking, ultimately taking our best thinking and translating that into action in order to benefit the peoples of Africa. So I congratulate OSSREA for the role that you've played on the continent for the last 33 years in asking the right questions and inspiring research on those questions, and also nurturing young scholars to take place. And we can see that in the many things that you have published, and we have the catalogs and the materials at hand, but also attempting to bridge research and policies. And we can see that exemplified by your CV here, the policy briefs that we have in our folders. So we at Life and Peace Institute are very happy to be joining hands with you at OSSREA in these endeavors, both now and in the future. And dear participants, I wish you all very fruitful deliberations and very rich discussions. Thank you very much.
Dr. Benedicto Condori, Malawi Human Rights Commission. I'd like to call you to stand.
And the Executive Committee and distinguished guests. Let me begin by extending our word of thanks to the OSSREA for inviting us to this very important meeting. And we are sure and proud to be associated with OSSREA. I note, Mr. President, that issues to be discussed today are all rights issues, which makes human rights bodies very critical in such dialogue processes. The Malawi Human Rights Commission is a constitutional body with the mandate to promote and protect human rights in the broadest sense possible. We particularly acknowledge the OSSREA's contribution in shaping the state discourse in Eastern and Southern Africa on many issues that are critical for setting right the development and social agenda for the region. We trust that your work will continue in a profound way in years to come, and that OSSREA will remain the authority in the region. By working with both scholars and policymakers, we believe that your institution deliberately facilitates the needed spaces for policy influence from a knowledge base between these two critical players. As a Commission, we see ourselves collaborating even more on issues of land rights, business and human rights, especially the governance of extractive industry that we are particularly interested in. The President, these are areas that are becoming critical for Malawi to deal with, to safeguard the interests of its people. We will therefore be appreciative of your organization's support and all partners present there in these two areas. To all distinguished guests, I trust that your presence is a great manifestation of your unwavering support to OSSREA for the good work it is doing. I hope that you all seize this great opportunity to selflessly share our knowledge and skills and develop an actionable plan to translate everything that we have discussed here for the good of our people, the region, and the continent. Thank you for your attention.
The last but not least presentation is going to be considered as a mini keynote address. I'd like to call upon Dr. Steve Kaizizi Nguera from the African Development Bank. Would you please come to the stand?
Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for giving my small speech the dignity of a mini keynote. But let me start this way. I would like to thank all of you that have presented very wonderful ideas. I'm extremely impressed. And you have given me a few tweaks that I will add to my presentation. So let me begin by saying I had hoped that the State Minister would be here because I started with Your Excellency. Because this is not here. All Your Excellencies here. Your Excellencies. Executive Director or President of OSSREA, Executive Director Pascal here, distinguished guests, supporters of this great enterprise called OSSREA, fellow researchers, and ladies and gentlemen. The first thing I want to do is bring greetings to you from the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Donald Kaberuka. I'm very happy indeed, and indeed very privileged to be representing him and the bank today. I know and I'm very fond of this region. I was, in my former life at the bank, the Director of the East African Department, which covered Ethiopia and the regions around here, Khartoum, and I was, of course, witness the independence of South Sudan, and so on. Extremely fond of Khartoum. So I know quite a lot of you working within OSSREA and your countries. And second, I'd like you to allow me, on my personal behalf, to really congratulate you, OSSREA, for reaching what I think is a very tender but very responsible age of 33. Now, if you are a human being, OSSREA, you would be entering an age of anxiety. This is an age, if you're not married, you'll be thinking of maybe it's too late. And this is the time you want to inspire your peers. You look around and say, how can I inspire? How can I rise to become like somebody here, having special advisor to the president, for example? It's also the time that you want to establish a business, and so on and so forth. So the 30s have been called the age of anxiety and discomfort. But maybe young people that were about 30 years old, 30 years ago, 1980, they met in a city called Nazareth, which has changed a little bit, in a place called Oromia, a province, which also changed a little bit, but has gone to Afghanistan, Oromia again. And this city, by the way, I'm not quite sure whether it was named after the Nazareth of Israel or vice versa. I know Ethiopians have been having relations with Jerusalem for a long, long time. But anyway, importantly, and again related to that, there was somebody who was born and raised in Nazareth by the name of Jesus Christ. And this is very interesting. What happened was, Jesus Christ was about 33. By the way, he died at 33. But anyway, he was around that time. He was that age. Before, a little while later, he was looking for disciples to accompany his ministry. And one of them called Philip. And of course, these are true stories. You can check them out in the Bible. One of them called Philip went around and met a friend called Nathaniel. Nathaniel told him, you have met this very fantastic guy who knows a lot of things. It's very inspiring and so on. And then Nathaniel said, where does he come from? And Philip told him, he comes from Nazareth. And then Nathaniel started scratching his head and he said, can anything good come out of Anyway, continuing on my speech, OSSREA has since become a very eminent research network, as you know, in Eastern and South Africa. It has a very well-established reputation, and I've looked through a lot of your publications, both on the internet and, of course, the people that are bringing applications and so on, and what we've been planning and what we have put in place in the past decades. It's extremely impressive indeed. You were working on HIV/AIDS, ethnic conflict, corruption, patriarchy, the dilemmas of higher education, slum proliferation, all the things that are affecting our continent, climate change, land grabbing. In fact, I was very impressed. One of your researchers called land grabbing internationalization of African land, which I thought was very impressive. And you have, like all of us, tried to look at Africa's promise and try to raise the manacles of institutional failure that have affected that promise. You have also contemplated an Africa which is peaceful, which is extremely prosperous, and which has overcome abject poverty, and where the citizens of Africa can look at the future with confidence. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was born and raised in Uganda, like some people who have come up on the podium. And I always tell my friends that Uganda might be a poor country, but it's very rich in saints. In fact, it has so many saints that per capita, it has more saints than it has income in the US dollars. So I'm going to share with you one of those very saints. And the saying goes like this: that when you go to a feast, you're invited to a feast, you should not go barehanded. You should at least take with you a straw so you can share some of the beer at that feast. And so I decided to bring with me a small straw, which I want to share with you this morning. The straw is about Africa's transformation. A lot of you, whenever you open the newspaper, be it the Financial Times, the Economist, and so on, you find all these adjectives. Africa rising and so on and so forth. And then I want to pose for you a question that is on every Africa's lips, not you, intelligentsia that fly around about the poor people on the street. They are wondering, is it really happening? Is the banana getting out of the republic? Remember, all your countries are called banana republics. So we want to take out that banana so you can come to this republic. Is that happening? In other words, all these fantastic words that you hear, they really mean something tangible. I think in the mindset of all of us, there's still worries in these extravagance. We remember in our memories the poverty that was there before. It might have been introduced a little bit, but it's still extremely pervasive. But also, a problem is what was expressed in the Arab Spring. The Arab countries and my bank, our bank, is in Tunis right now, Centralia. We've been there for almost 12 years though. These countries are much richer than we are down in Sub-Saharan Africa, but they're the countries that have been a lot so troubled in the last couple of years. That is because there's been a participation deficit in these countries. You've done things, but you've not allowed the citizens to participate. Moreover, this thing we hear about Africa's transformation is really not new. It has been around for a very long time. I want to give you an example that I came across many years ago when I was doing research for my doctorate in Zambia. And this was a manifesto by Kenneth Kaunda, who you know very well, the first president, and ruled that country for almost 30 years. He had an election manifesto from 1963, and the thing was entitled, "When UNIP becomes government." Those of you that might have lived in Zambia at the time before UNIP went down, UNIP was so loud, people used to call it UNIP. UNIP was this party. It was a famous party. But the manifesto was very important because what he wanted to do was transform Zambia using copper, that money that was coming from copper, to transform this country, to eliminate poverty. President, you mentioned that, to eliminate ignorance, to eliminate disease. And that is what you really want structure gets before. The same for Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, who through his Ujamaa wanted to transform Africa. But today, Ghana, which is a country coming up, can be compared to Korea, for example. 60 years ago, 60 was somewhere at the end of the 50s, when Ghana became independent, the first country to do so in Africa. It was almost at par with Korea. Today, when you compare per capita incomes of these two, there is a gap of 30 times, 35 times. You need to multiply the per capita income of Ghana 35 times to get that of Korea. So what has happened? Why this incredible divergence? Is it that we Africans have been waiting for some great miracle to happen? I think to make speed forward, we need to recognize that we have to do it ourselves. And I believe that today, many African countries have become more assertive once again. The natural resources that we're getting is being used wisely by some countries to build infrastructure. Look at the infrastructure claims of this country, Ethiopia. Wonderful indeed. They're using the ICT revolution to do things that they've never done before. Look at M-Pesa in Kenya, for example. Democracy is taking root, I think. There's an expanding middle class, look at you around here. And, of course, there is increasing peace. So I think those are things that are going on. So now quickly, what are some of the lessons that we have learned moving forward? I think we have learned that there's no mystery to development. A lot of you might think there is something called mysterious development. There's no mystery to it. China's fantastic growth today, which is overwhelming, has been generated by the Communist Party of China. That was never supposed to happen. Communism would not do anything, but it's generated growth that is over the whole world. What about India? India, many years ago, used to have what they call Hindu rate of growth. That was 1% every year. Today, India is growing at 7-8%. In spite of its diverse regions, diverse tribes, and faiths, and so on and so forth. What about Vietnam? Vietnam is today the biggest producer of coffee, Arabica, which it imported from Africa somewhere, and it has turned the legacy of war and is becoming a very, very important nation in the region. And so, what does it take? Ladies and gentlemen, I think it takes a throne. It takes a leadership that is capable of articulating a national development vision. As they say, an African saying says, that if you don't know where you're going, what happens to you? You arrive somewhere where you're headed. So don't just move on. You are going to get somewhere. Is that where you want to go? No. Sit down and have a capable articulation of your national needs and development plans. And importantly, the populations should be able to hold their leaders' feet on the fire, not torturing them, but they have to have responsibility. In other words, when leaders fail, there must be some consequences. Okay? Not year in and decade in failure without consequences. There must be some consequences. But the movement will not be without friction, and therefore we must manage domestic conflict a bit more carefully. And very quickly again, some of the visions